Hey everyone, welcome back to Winter Science. Today I was just scrolling through the Medical News Today website and I found this interesting article about how eating meals early can help reduce cardiovascular disease. So I just wanted to come out here and share this with you because I found it interesting and maybe you guys will find it interesting as well. So what is it? Research reported that eating the first and last meals of the day earlier can prevent heart disease. So instead of eating at after 9 p.m., make sure you're eating at a reasonable time, maybe 7 or 6 o'clock is a good time for you to eat, and this can help reduce cardiovascular disease. Yeah, and like they said, eating the first meal of the day before 8 a.m. and the last meal before 9 p.m. can lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. And they add that the reduction risk is more significant in women than in men. So there was a study going on where about 100,000 people at around 42 years old were surveyed, and then they were asked to eat, and they were monitored, and it was about the time they ate and how much times they ate. And then there was also an average follow-up about 7 years after. So it was just monitoring their 24-hour daily food intake and the time that they ate food. And during the study, after about 7 years, they followed up, and 2,036 of people out of the 100,000 had cases of cardiovascular disease, and it came down to strokes or heart attacks. But still, 2,036 people out of the 103,000 or something is a really big impact to show how eating the food earlier really does have an impact on the ability to get that cardiovascular disease. So just making sure you're eating at a reasonable time can definitely give you an advantage to make sure you don't get those type of diseases. So the researchers observed the following findings associated with meal times between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. So delaying the daily first meal was associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. So like I said, 8 a.m. if you eat their first meal at 10 p.m., then that can be associated with a higher risk. And eating the last meal in a day after 9 p.m., like if you eat the last meal at 10 p.m., sorry, the other one is 10 a.m., but if you eat the last meal at 10 p.m., it is associated with a 28% risk of cerebrovascular disease than those who ate before 8 p.m. So just making sure you're not finishing your dinner at like a really late time and making sure you're eating around 6, 7, around that time, so you have enough time to digest before going to sleep as well. And each additional hour of nighttime fasting, which is eating at an earlier evening meal rather than delaying breakfast, was associated with a 7% lower risk of cerebrovascular disease. But there was no additional risk associated with how many times you eat during the day. So if someone ate 15 times between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m., it's not going to be a big difference to someone who ate 4 times between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. It's just mostly the timing that you eat the food. So researchers noted that these results supported the idea that eating first and last meals earlier with a longer period of nighttime fasting could help prevent the risk of cardiovascular disease. And so fasting is not a one-size-fits-all. It's depending on the body. Like if someone, and you have to know your body to make sure you are doing the right things that are good for your health. So fasting is a good way to approach your eating times as long as it doesn't have negative repercussions to your body like fatigue or overheating at night. Just making sure you're paying attention to what your body needs before getting into something like fasting. So with intermittent fasting, you restrict eating to certain times in the day. The idea behind this plan is that by doing so, our bodies will more quickly and efficiently tap our fat stores for energy. And this is according to UC Davis Health. And so our most direct sources of energy are carbohydrates and glucose. But when glucose isn't available, we burn the fats, which is why the fasting just restores and stores our fat so we can get energy from that as well. And the researchers suggested that the final meal of the day, again, should be no later than 8, and then the first meal should be no later than 8 a.m., but they did not say specifically about intermittent fasting and not eating for 12 hours as a variation of this approach. So yeah, just making sure if you wanted to get into fasting as a way to organize your eating times, just make sure you're watching your body. So I just thought this was an interesting article for me to go out here and show you. So I hope you guys find this interesting, and I hope you learned something new and exciting or something from this video. I'll see you guys next video. Happy holidays.